And we're live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Bigfoot Odyssey's Late Show. Hope everyone's doing all right tonight. I'm your host, Kerry. With me, as always, he likes pina coladas and getting caught in the rain. Brad Hatcher. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great. How are you, Kerry?
I'm here, man. I'm here, doing well. You know, we had a really good trip. To
welcome back. We missed you last Friday.
Well, you know what? This is my first show back since then. Met a lot of great people. Got to eat dinner with Linwood, Tammy Workman, the great Mark Newbill. It's always good to hang around him. Hung out with Scott Carpenter took him to dinner, and which Brad paid for, by the way. Thank you very much. Scott was very appreciative of that, and just all around a good experience. You know, we shot a film there. We're going to make like a 4-minute sizzle reel for them for their advertisement for next year. So that came out really well. You know, got to see David Politis. Our buddy Cam, DC Cryptid, was there with Nance from Buckeye Bigfoot. So yeah, a lot of really cool people. And you know, say what you want about David Politis. You know, you hear a lot of things. Probably the best content you're going to get on the subject you're going to get from him. No matter what you think about how he presents or anything else. But when I met him, just really looked like he did not want to be there. And it was his first conference back, you know, since he lost his son. And so it's understandable. And, you know, same with Scott Carpenter, you know, just those guys going through a lot of things. So if you pray for those two. Say a prayer for David Politis and Scott Carpenter, because I think they can use it for sure. Got a couple shout outs. I got to mention Lee and his lovely wife. Can't remember her name. I'm so sorry for that. We did meet a lot of people. Greg Wisman, just talked to him on the phone. Really, really great people down there. Lee gave us a gift, a blessing. Just some really cool people. So I'm not going to go on and on about it. We actually have a guest with us tonight that has had several Bigfoot experiences, and that we're going to talk about. Michael, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you very much. How are you doing, sir?
Great.
No, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. Seriously. So
honor's all
glad
ours.
to have you.
We've actually started booking a lot of people. So we're booked up for the next month. But if you have an encounter, like I said, you don't have to show your face. Got a guy coming up. I think on Friday the 13th. It was going to be Brian, but I think Danielle already had this other guy booked. So, and just some amazing, incredible things that are going on around this place. So that's coming up. We got some good stuff, but I think Brad and I have been talking about changing some things up here with the Late Show. I think we're going to do away with researchers' reports. Maybe not do away with it, but just make Wednesday another encounter show, since we've got so many people wanting to come on and tell their story. And I think on Friday nights we're going to start doing the Bigfoot news. So whatever's new, whatever new videos are out, that's our I don't know, I wouldn't say legit, just the good stuff, you know, the stuff that we all like to watch. We'll let you guys know what conferences are coming up, and we'll just go through the week, whatever is new encounters, new sightings, where they are, trying to get a hold of these people to get them on the show. And so that's coming. We may do that. We may start doing that next week. But I'm leaving tonight, heading back to West Texas to work. So,
long drive.
Yeah, man,
fun stuff. But all right, let's
feel you on that one.
Without any further ado, let's dive right into this, Michael. Before you had any of these experiences, what was your take on the whole Bigfoot subject?
Absolutely nothing. I was 8 at the time, and the only reason I know what year it was is after that we had the centennial celebration of 4th of July. So it's the only reason I would know what year it was. But the only thing I knew about Bigfoot is what you saw on like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. It had the little Yeti on it. And the only other thing was, I think, when Bigfoot was on $6 Million Man. It was never
Andre the Giant.
Yep, it was never. We never talked about it. Never. It was just. It was not even a non-issue. It was just a subject I wasn't even aware of. I didn't know about the PG film until many years later.
Here's a bit of quick trivia for you. Here's a bit of quick trivia for both of you guys. Who else besides Andre the Giant played Bigfoot on $6 Million Man?
Ooh.
Oh man.
Come on.
Dave Bautista.
No.
Why am
The
I
guy who
thinking?
plays Chewbacca?
Yeah,
No,
Peter
man.
Mayhew?
Ted Cassidy, guy that played Lurch on the Addams Family.
Oh.
Was it really?
Yeah, he stood in as Bigfoot.
I
Ted
don't know
Cassidy.
I
where the
did
heck
not
I'm
know
getting
that.
Dave Bautista from.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh, Cassidy was so typecast after Addams Family. That was about all he could get. So he was a big dude, 6'9". He was a big guy. Anyway, I digress.
Was a big
That's
guy.
enough interrupting here. So back to Michael. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. And my apologies, y'all. I warned you. This little guy has been the bane of our existence for 9 months. So
Well,
if you hear
he looks
some,
like a pretty little dog.
if you hear some
He's a
loud
good-looking
noise,
dog.
that's him, not me. So he's rooting
Well,
around.
Yeah,
Well, Bailey will
you'll blame it on
appreciate
him anyway. Yeah,
Yeah,
Bailey
exactly.
will appreciate it.
you'll blame it on him anyway. Doesn't he?
Exactly.
So you're 8.
Yes, sir.
76.
Please tell us. And see,
Yeah.
you're younger. I'm older than you, so that makes me feel
Man, I'm 53. So
55.
are you really?
Yep.
Man, I'm feeling it. But yeah, we, the 70s was a lot different than what it is today. We'd go to the Dude Ranch. I went for 3 years in a row. And back then, parents didn't mind leaving their kids with someone else for 3 weeks out of the summer. Back in the 70s, you did what you want, and the dumb kids just didn't make it. It was a different time period. But went to a Dude Ranch. Was there 1 year before, and the next year I went there, and that's when that single 2 days is when everything happened. Otherwise, since nothing else had happened. But I remember when it first started, it was probably, I'm thinking, 2 days before my actual encounter. When you think of a Dude Ranch, it wasn't anything as grand or eloquent as a log cabin. It was a cinder block house. One in for the girls, one in for the guys.
Uh-oh.
But I was talking, ran the Dude Ranch, and it was the evening, and he was talking about some strange things that were happening around the Dude Ranch. And he mentioned a few particulars, with some dogs, and they had quite a few horses, and we would, take the horses out. We'd saddle them up ourselves, Western style. If you got good enough, you wouldn't even need a saddle. So I felt like a cowboy or Indian back at that time. But he was talking about the horses always getting out of the corral, but the gate was never opened. And, I've been around horses enough. They typically just don't jump over a fence for no reason, or really jump at, anything if they're in a corral. And I don't know if it was just because of the late evening, maybe what he was talking about, but the woods were pretty much all around us. But I do remember looking into the woods, and like so many other people, it was just this real sinking feeling of impending doom. Whether it was him talking about the story, I don't know. I never had that as a kid. So that kind of stuck with me. But, we talked for a while, and the next day is when things amped up. Went through a typical day. We'd ride horses or do whatever. And that evening, we laid down to bed. We had a dance before. They had a kitchen area, and they'd put all the tables back, and they'd have a dance. Still remember that 70s music going. And late at night, one of the girls ran into the boys section, and scared out of her wits. And she said, all she'd say is there was a really big, ugly face looking in the window as she was in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. And the girls had one bathroom, boys had another bathroom at either end. And there was one window. They were pretty much built the same. One window built into the cinder block. And, for all the guys, we're instantly up. We're excited. And I thought initially, it's what kids do, sometimes. So I thought, maybe she's just trying to, just create some mayhem. But I'll always remember she was so scared. She was dead white. I mean, I've never seen someone so scared.
Well, talk about traumatic.
Yeah,
a monster looking in the window. Kids are already pretty intuitive. And I can only imagine. I mean, being grown and seeing this thing peeking in the window, looking at you. This focus is you.
Yeah, and you know, especially for a little kid, it'd be bad enough for any age, but a little kid. And I do remember looking in the window in the boys' room, and it was just one of those kind of scary things. At first, we thought it was a person, you know, some kind of pervert or something. But where we were at, there was no one around us for miles. And she said it wasn't a man; it was a really big, black, ugly face, you know. And that's all she said. She wouldn't give any description. See, we're up for a while. It's strange. None of us went outside that night. Don't know why. Didn't smell anything. Didn't hear anything. The next morning, though, you know, she went back. We calmed her down. We went back to sleep eventually. I do know the next morning we got up and we went outside, and the lay of the land, there's a slight hill, and if you were to try to peer into the girls' restroom window. Now, I'm only 8, but it must have been at least 6-7 feet off the ground just because of the lay of the land. Mm-hmm. And I do remember, and the weirdest thing, and we talked about this for a while, there were some muddy prints on the wall, and they were close up to where the window was. And to this day, I can't really tell you what the handprints were. I would say it's a cross between a human, the way the opposable thumb looks, and that really offset thumb that monkeys have. I'd say a bit more human. The prints, and I always got to think I was 8 years old at the time, but the prints were pretty big, and the fingers were really large. And some of the prints, they were muddy. Some of them you could just see where the hand was against the wall, but one or two you could see where it had put its fingers against the wall and slid it down. So the sheer size of it really threw me. And, you know, we went about, did our daily thing, you know, just out having fun. And the next day we were going to go on a 2 or 3 day camp out. And that's where you get your horses. There was a waterway there, so we would follow the waterway so the horses could be watered. And we would literally take a 2 or 3 day round trip on the horses. And man, your butt really hurts after all day in the saddle. But
so true,
man. Yeah.
Drive 14 hours straight. That'll get you. That'll get the old sciatic going.
But that night when it happened, that night is when it happened. It was in the middle of the night. The night, you know, summer night, which is the only time the Dude Ranch was open. Full moon, or at least a near full moon, a lot of stars. So the light conditions were really good. And I hear this so many times, but it was true in the case of me. I just woke up feeling like I was being stared at. And you got to picture it's the middle of the night, so the campfire's dead. You got some charcoals and some embers going. And there must be like 8 other kids, most of them boys. Some of the girls went, and 2 counselors with us. So there's a group of us all around the campfire. And I stood up, and I immediately, have no idea why, but I knew where to look. So I'm looking at this hill, and I see this large figure, tall figure, walking down the hill. Wasn't making any noise, and then it stopped and looked at me.
How far away?
60 feet.
Were the horses
60 feet?
Right there.
You know, the horses right there, and the strange thing is, the horses, no response from them whatsoever. Oh, and I did mean to say, the day before that, the horses got loose. And the owners were always really upset, so they had all us boys go out and get them. Now, they had a large property that was fenced, but it took us to bring them back. And I do remember that the gate was closed, so they must have jumped it. No idea why, no reason. Never heard any noise from them. But then going back to this figure, my first thought was Katya. My immediate thought, it's one of the counselors trying to sneak in and scare the heck out of us. They did that all the time. That's what they excelled at. So my first thought is, you know, Katya. So I'm thinking about yelling out. And then what really got me is the first thing I noticed, because it's just standing there and we're staring at each other. And after 15 or 20 seconds, it started swaying. Its back, its face was kind of thrust forward, a bent, and it was just doing this rocking thing. Now, before it rocked, I was scared because what really made me realize it wasn't a counselor were the long arms on it. The arms were way too long for it to be a human being. And that's the first thing I noticed. And then I noticed the swing, and I'm like, nobody does that. Nobody. And then I noticed the hair all over it. I don't remember seeing the cone-shaped head, and I did see a perfect silhouette, but I couldn't make out any facial features, because of the darkness.
Yeah, it sounds like it was light enough to see, but not light enough for detail.
Exactly.
Real quick, Michael, what do you think that is? You think it's a nervous thing they do, this rocking back and forth?
I have no
Heard
idea.
it a lot. Seen it myself. It's almost kind of unnerving itself. Just to
it is. It's and I've wondered if it's a fight or flight response, which is in a way really funny because the one I saw wasn't muscled up. But if it's a flight or flight response, it's really funny that these creatures, things, whatever you want to call them, that are so huge, would you even think about having a flight response from a human being? Whether or not you got the boomstick.
Well, but it's almost like, because I've heard a lot of people say what you're saying, and I wonder at all if it's them noticing that or that you see them. They're aware that they're being seen, so they kind of maybe get excited. Maybe I don't know. It's just something that popped in my head that it seems like people sometimes they do see them, but that people say that they feel like they're looking straight at them. They know that I'm looking at them, and then that that rocking starts.
Yeah, I've never studied one. If there's an expert out there, I'm the furthest thing from it. I've always thought, just with everything I've listened to, there's only a few podcasts I listen to. Yours is one of them, but I always thought maybe it was stress, fear, or curiosity, and that's just what they do. And maybe that ties into with the tree peaking. They go back and forth like that, but
it's actually pretty efficient if you plan to move one way or the other really quick. You ever play baseball?
True. Yeah,
yeah.
Where you watch shortstop, watch second base, watch third base. They're rocking back and forth.
Guy in first is rocking too.
They've already got the momentum going one way or the other to get one way or the other as quickly as possible.
That's a good point, Gary.
True.
So maybe it's that. Maybe it's, hey, I need to jet one way or the other really quick. I'm already, in motion. Hey, real quick, Mr. Lighthouse busted out the wallet tonight. That's his second time, by the way. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Also, Greg Wisman with a $25 super chat. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, back to
certainly.
So how long did it rock at you?
I honestly think, and the weird thing is, I play this. It's been 45 years ago, and I think about it every day. Which, when I talked to Carrie earlier, there was a period of time I didn't remember this even happened at all. But from the time I had the recollection every day, I'd say 1 to 3 minutes. I don't think any more. I don't think any more than 3, but I know it was at least a minute or two, and it's rocking back and forth, and I'm staring, and I got all these people around me. All I had to do was say one word or yell at all, and they'd be up, and I was rooted to the spot. It was more, I think, awe and shock. I wouldn't say it was terror, but it was definitely shock, and I was rooted to the spot better than any tree could hope to be. And I actually didn't even think about getting a word out. Nothing at all. I couldn't talk. So we're sitting there staring, and I didn't see the huge muscular thing. So many other people see that, just, that huge oversized uber, quarterback or linebacker. Mine was more thin. And I would say if you took a chimpanzee and elongated it, it wasn't skinny, but I didn't see any muscle definition, but I had the sense that it was really solid, if that makes any sense at all. But like chimpanzees, that torso, it kind of seems like it has some strength to it. The torso did seem a bit longer than a normal human, which threw me off. But at first it was the arm length, and then the swing, and then the furl over the body. And after, so many minutes, it's like it grew tired of me. It just ignored me and walked down the hill, down into the holler. And it was real thick brush. I'd find out the next day, because when we got our horses saddled, I took my horse over there. It's only, 60 feet away, 70 maybe, where it was at. And I didn't hear a single thing, no footfalls. Of course, it was summer, so you're not going to have any dry brush, really. But I do remember the next morning getting my horse saddled and going over there. And what got me is the brush was so thick, I don't know how anything could have moved through it without making noise. That was something that was kind of, stuck in my head for a while.
Seem to be good at that.
Yeah. And I think I fell asleep, but it wasn't for a long time. And when we all woke up that morning, I didn't say anything to anybody because my first thought was I didn't want to be made fun of.
Right.
Whether it was a counselor and I was scared of that, no matter what it was, when you're around a bunch of boys, 8, 10, 12 years old, you're going to give each other hell no matter what. And you don't want to give them that ammo. So I didn't say a single word. I carried on with the day. Later on throughout that day, and that was a really long trek on the horses. Only 2 things happened. There was off to the right, we're going up a little hill. There was a really old shack. I'd say it was a really small house. It wasn't a log cabin. And to call it a shack is probably an overstatement. I mean, it was really falling apart. Not some of the roof on, but chunks missing, gouges out in the sides. And I remember looking in the window and I thought at first maybe it was a curtain, but what I saw, and I tend to strike this up to maybe it was just me being so jittery from the prior night. But I always remember looking in wasn't a window, the window was out, but just a large opening where the window was. And it really looked like 3 figures from the back. You would see them at the back, like eating a meal, but they were whitish gray, and hair all over. And all you could see is like the heads bobbing. But that was my impression for the minute, maybe as, we went by. But it really seemed like from the back, you saw 3 figures and it was intact enough where it was, there was no sunlight directly on them. And it just looked like 3 figures kind of bending over, like you would see the shoulders and the arms like they were eating. And there were 3 of them, not really huge, side by side. And I just took it as it must have been a curtain, a real dirty curtain blowing in the wind. And I saw that because of my nerves. To this day, I can't tell you. I know what I saw the night before, but I can't tell you what that may or may not have been. I'm not comfortable
was it there the whole time when you rode by, or was it there and then gone? Or
it was there when we were riding by. I noticed it, and then I stared at it for a bit, and then I looked back toward we were going, and for whatever reason, I didn't look back. Don't know why. But it was, if it was a window, blowing in the wind, which I got to admit, that's entirely possible. I tend to go with Occam's razor, with things, which I think we all know what that is. But, I tend to thought, well, it's even back then, it must be a curtain. And now I'm kind of like, even today, I'm like, was it a curtain? Was it something else? But it just, the way they kind of moved. Yeah, it stuck with me. And then the only thing that happened later on that day, and I never smelled anything, during all this time, no smell, no sounds. Later on, though, my horse, we had the horses probably about 25 feet apart in a line as we're traveling. And for no reason, my horse bolted. And I was pulling back on the reins. I didn't see anything, not that I was really looking. And I got to say, the next day when we're making this trek, I remember the figures, but I don't remember being scared that day. So I think I had basically just forgotten about the night before. As strange as that may seem, because I remember a lot about those few days, but I don't remember the rest of my time there being worried about going in the woods.
It's not really strange at all, but you said something that's important. And I think what's important even more so is that we kind of touch on it, is that you said you went for years without thinking about this. And this is usually what happens. This is the same thing happened to me. You don't face it. You don't deal with whatever traumatic event you've gone through. And what happened actually is a close second to what you can remember. Okay. Because that's what stays with you, obviously. But when you don't face it, it comes back on you hard.
Yeah.
How long did it take?
For me, fast forward, I went through high school and college, and in junior high and high school, we hunted, we fished all the time. Never had a problem in the woods. Nothing. Years go by. I'm working for a living, and fall in love with someone. Love at first sight. Hits that hard. So we're up in God, and this was 20 years. This was about, let's see, my son's 14, so this was like 21 years ago. So I was 31 roughly. So if I was 8, so 23 years later. We were in not Eureka Springs. That's where I had a business. Sedona, Arizona. We were up there. Real beautiful area. A lot of red rock. Probably one of the most beautiful places on earth I've seen. So we went up there, and it was kind of like a half hotel, half bed and breakfast. Really nice. And at late at night, there's a hammock for 2, and it's right by Oak Creek. So we're there. Really romantic. I know it's going to be a great night. And so we're sitting there, the stars are out, and it was really embarrassing because I went from going to be a great night, Michael, this is a good moment, to I start freaking out. I get out of the hammock and I'm just wigging out, and I tell her, we're going inside now. We're going in. And I just flipped, and we could not get in from that hammock because there were a number of levels of stairs to go up. They'd cross, go back and forth. We could not get up those things quick enough to get back inside. And it's really strange, but everything flooded back. After so much time, it all came back in 1 second. And whether it's because it was the night in the woods, I don't know, but that was embarrassing. And I took her inside and I told her exactly what happened. And luckily, she was really understanding about it. I think a lot of times people, I think it's the luck of the draw. You have friends or family you tell, and they're understanding, they're supportive, they're merciful or kind. And other times you get people that basically call you a liar to your face, or they'll mock you or disrespect you. And I think that's the only reason I didn't mind having my ugly mug on the show, or my name is, I'm just too middle-aged and too Irish to care what people think. But for anyone that's had an encounter, I think that, to all the things Carrie's done, and Brad, you've been involved with, it's all a public service. And if you save one, if you have helped one person not to have an encounter, maybe they decided not to go out, or maybe more. Maybe there's a family that was going to go out, and God forbid they're going to bring a little kid with them or something like that. But I think for anyone that's had an encounter, and it makes my blood boil, but anyone, family member or friend, that is really disrespectful and just really nasty, one, they're not your friend. You need to 86 that right away, because if they're showing that much disrespect, they're not a friend. And if they're a family member that does it, they're not much of a family member. And, I've told my son, just because someone's blood doesn't mean they're family, and just because they're not blood doesn't mean they can't be family.
This is true.
And
Yes, it is.
yeah, I had told a few people, and I got the typical walleye look, like, have you upped your medication dosage lately, or anything like that, or anything like that.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
That's a shame. It is. It's a shame that you have to be selective about who you tell, but it's important that you tell somebody, this is a safe place here. If you want to come tell their story, you don't have to show your face. Just getting it out and getting it off is fine. You don't have to tell it here. Call me. I'll listen to your story. Just telling it to someone that is going to believe you. That's the thing. That's what you need. Someone that's going to support you, not just telling someone, but someone that's actually going to look at you and take you seriously when you say you saw something that isn't supposed to exist. That's what helps you. That's the catharsis. Because just telling someone that's going to ridicule you, I don't think maybe it will work for you. I don't know. But I think it's better when you can just get some confirmation. Look, confirmation feels good. It doesn't matter.
Especially early on in the process too.
Absolutely.
When you're coming out with it.
Sooner the better. You're not, this thing is not stuck inside of you, building up to come out in some unhealthy way later, because that's what's going to happen. Is it's going to end up eating you up. Now, we have hopefully established enough awareness here that people know they can contact us. And this is the thing. When I say confirmation feels good, there's not a single person watching this now that can't point back to some lived experience that they can't explain. Now, it doesn't matter how insignificant they think it is, but listening to someone else tell what happened to them, hearing their voice, hearing the truth come out of them, the slightest little thing gleaned means something to some people. And that's why it's important. That's why we do this, is strictly to help the people that have had these experiences or potentially could have this experience, just to prepare yourself. That's, to me, is the most important thing. And thank you, everyone. My goodness, the time is now. Thank you so much.
And you know, the other thing too, though, is you might be helping somebody say, okay, now I want to talk about it. Like we had Texas Jack on the last 2 weeks, and you know, he mentioned that watching us helped him feel comfortable enough to come on. And we've had other people that have done it too. But you know, I still can personally, you know, myself, 10 years old, had my first experience. You know, there's little bitty things that I hear from a lot of people that make me like think back to a moment that I can't explain. But, you know, the one thing that you pointed on, and one thing that I realized, that when I was your age, I wasn't scared to go back in the woods at that age, because I just thought it was a black man. Now, it's interesting when it seems like you realized what that moment of dread felt like. You recognized it again when you were in, you know, when you're in the two-person hammock. It sounds like you felt that you had that feeling of dread from when you were a kid. Is that pretty accurate, that dread feeling, or
I think you hit it on the nail on the head. I think it was, you know, and I had been out in the woods at night many times, but it was something about that night. Unfortunately, it was with, you know, a gorgeous woman in the hammock next to me, but it happened at that time. And I think it was night, it was the woods. And for whatever reason, it was that feeling of dread that quickly within seconds became that feeling of doom to, we're going to die, let's get inside. You know, and luckily she was okay with it. I told her, but even then, after that, it was years before I would try to tell other people. And after that, I had almost given up. In fact, I'd say it wasn't, I hadn't really told anybody until I've been in Georgia for about 5 or 6 years now. And they gave me permission to use their names. I've got two. I don't have many friends, but I've got quality. I may not have quantity, but Lenny and Nora. And I told them a while back, we'd known each other for a while, and I told them what happened. And if you're a friend or family member and you're worth your salt, she said something that was really good. She said, I have no doubt that you believe what you experienced, but I wasn't there. And I'm like, man, that's perfect. You know, she's not just coming out and lying and saying, I believe you. She, you know, she's saying, I believe what you saw or experienced, but I wasn't there. And Lenny, you know, he kind of wears his heart on his face, not a good poker face. I could see what he thought, you know, but he didn't say anything, you know, which I appreciate, because you get shot down and eventually you get so gun shy at talking about stuff like this that you only do it with people you're really comfortable with. But before that, I had talked with a few people. And what's really funny is I wouldn't really admit it to many people, but I would tell the people I'm interested in the subject. And I was amazed how many people close to me would talk about stuff that happened. Like my stepdad, he grew up in Georgia, and he had mentioned, you know, we were talking about the subject one day, and he was kind of, you know, that's not real BS. But he had told a story when he was a kid that he saw a skeleton face looking in his window for a while and then walked off. And I was like, well, I said, was it skeletal? Was it, you know, actual bone? Well, no, but I saw a white face with deep blue eyes, and it had a big, you know, black area where the lips would be. And I didn't say anything, but I'm thinking, my immediate thought was, there you go. You know, and I had
the mic.
Yeah, that's look, that to just describe it as a skeleton face. Yeah, sorry, I'm out. Here, we got something right here. I want to say that this Amanda Oswatch, who I respect very much, by the way, says, in my opinion, if they were dangerous to our existence, we'd know about it by now. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? We just don't know enough. And if people are being attacked by them, I imagine they're not surviving to tell about it. We do know people that have been attacked by them. I had one very angry with me. Felt like, you know, he really wanted to hurt me, and we've heard it a lot. So I mean, not to just playing devil's advocate there, Amanda, But you're not wrong. The thing is, we just don't know. And that's the scary part, really. We're talking about something that's got it all over us, from strength, speed, hiding ability, intelligence, more than likely, maybe not knowledge, but it's certainly the capacity
With
for
intelligence. Yeah.
Yeah. What gets me, I definitely think that they got that potential to be violent. I fully agree with Carrie that, if it's gunning for you, someone's thinking months down the road, why ain't he writing?
Yeah.
But you're not coming back, and I'm a great armchair historian. I'm a great armchair researcher, or I should say interested party. I'm not a researcher by any means. But not only was there Bauman's story, but Ape Canyon. And if anyone's listened to Mark Marcel, he was talking about Thompson Flats. And there were a number back in the 1800s, a number of hunters, miners that were coming up with the heads missing from the body. And they would talk about the mountain devils. There's just enough reports of violence and deaths to where I don't think they're godless killing machines, but at the same time, I just wouldn't. Oh, sorry. Sorry, puppy. I just
I
trust
usually do that.
I just don't trust I don't trust them to be in the woods not knowing what's going to happen. Yeah.
There's a tolerance level there, and you don't know what it is you can possibly do to break it. We don't know what their boundaries are. All I had to do was something different to trigger them. I believe wholeheartedly that's what happened. Hunting past deer season, doing something that I didn't normally do. And I imagine there were a lot of factors in there, but it happened. They were around me for 7 years and never did a thing except make me suspicious that there were people out there, messing around until that day. But it was me doing something completely different. So what is it that triggers these things?
Well, and also if you see one, there's got to be one or two or three more that you don't see. Safe
to assume.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I was talking with my friend Nora earlier, and she reminded me of this. We went to an old church. She's into like the haunting phenomenon. So me and my son went with her, and I felt very proud of myself because we're at night in the middle of the woods. I wasn't happy, but we made it. And when we left, and I didn't even remember this, but when we left, we went to the creek to kind of clean our feet up and stuff like that. And it was a nice night. And because I had talked with you, Carrie, and it's like one of the reasons I don't mind living here is, as far as I know, this is a dead zone for Bigfoot sightings. And kid you not, yesterday I talked to Nora, and I totally forgot about this, but while we were at the creek, we saw a large print. Now, I'm, not familiar with every, I know possums, fox, you got everything pretty much down here in Georgia. And I really don't know what to make of Dogman. I can't discount anyone's experience because I wasn't there, but I would need to be in that person's shoes. But there was a print that was interesting, to say the least. And I didn't even remember it until she mentioned it. And of course, when I saw that, there were dogs across the road that started barking, and I just lost it. I'm running back to the car, ignoring her. My son's in the car, and she's laughing her butt off the whole way running to the car. And I mean, it could have been anything, but I do remember the track. It was interesting. Whatever that may or may not have been, I don't know. But and then I was listening this morning, and apparently in Jacksonville, because I'm only like an hour north of Savannah, and I guess there have been some skunk ape sightings near Jacksonville. And I'm like, man, that's a little closer than I'd like to be. That's only 2 hours away. And there's a lot, Georgia, it's not like it's a giant metropolis. There's a lot of woodland everywhere. And I'm kind of like, man, it wouldn't take much for, thank God I haven't had any experiences since then, but it wouldn't take much for something to.
Those creatures are all over Florida, God's children, whatever you want to call them.
And I tell you, I hope there's not Dogman. I hope there's not a Dogman.
Me too.
I got a feeling there is. There's something there to that. I wanted to think the same thing for a long time, and I think
Carrie, you and I both agree. If we saw a Dogman, we'd be done.
Yeah, well, you're gonna have to call in Matt Hooper from Jaws to assess the scene. If it was me, this was no boating accident.
Yeah. This was no bear accident.
Somebody soiled this place. It would be me. Absolutely. Oh, real quick, when I got home, I had this waiting for me from Chris Reinhardt, Discover Sasquatch. If you guys are not subscribed,
I like that shirt.
I like it too.
It's
it says "Get in the Woods" on the back, which I won't really do, but it still says it. No, it's not for me to read. That's for somebody else. So thank you for that, Chris. By the way,
that is a nice shirt.
Yeah, Discover Sasquatch. It's an extra large too.
I'm at a 3XL, so that's okay.
But yeah, I saw somebody on the chat that said something about Dogman, and I just don't want to see one. If they're there, that's fine. Just Bigfoot's enough. That seeing a Dogman, it'd be just like, oh my goodness. That would.
It's really the only research I do is I watch podcasts. I listen. I'll watch any movie or show there is. Whether I believe it or not, it's still mildly interesting. But the more involved you get, the more I'm glad that there's a few places people can go, because there is no what's that word where people eat people? The sea. Cannibalistic. There is no cannibalistic community bigger than the Sasquatch community. Man, there's so much infighting, and even then, when some poor soul goes there to talk about what happened, they even get trolled. And I'm like, man, I've got one group I belong to. It's a good group. They keep the trolls out. It's pretty respectful, but so many times they get ripped apart. So
we've got incredible moderators here. We don't, unless somebody's got some kind of bot deal machine that we had to deal with one night, and even then, we had 2 of our moderators get those people booted from YouTube. So and that was our.
That's when we did a 12 o'clock show or 1 o'clock.
Yeah, we did a late show, and our lead mod, Cashew Gesundheit, took care of them. This is good right here. This pyromedic says, how many people do you have to walk by and say a large city until you pass by a killer?
Oh, that's good.
That's good.
A good way to look at it.
But these killers you won't see until it's too late.
Good one.
Yeah. But when I was talking with you before, Carrie, about I really don't even like using the term PTSD, but I can't think of anything else, because at the time I felt like it was disrespecting our service people, but now I'm like,
same way.
It's okay. It's this, it's the fear behind it. But when I was talking with Carrie, I really didn't know until a number of years back that it was PTSD, because I thought PTSD is something that the memory never left you. It's just sometimes that experience came back in full. I really had no idea that you could completely forget about something for a long time and then have it come back all at once. And it's just as bad or worse, as Carrie said, when you don't deal with it, whether it's consciously, well, obviously as a kid, I booted it to my subconscious and didn't deal with it until so many years later. And then it was, horrible to go through.
It only takes one thing to trigger a memory. A smell can do it. Anything. It's something somebody says, say, oh, you know what? I think I remember the same thing happened to me. Look at Errata imagery busting the wallet out tonight. That's like the 4th or 5th.
Much obliged. Yeah.
Much obliged.
But let me ask you this, Michael. Did you ever see The Legend of Boggy Creek?
I'm glad you brought that up. I did. And what this is, I'm one of those people. I'm the smartest dumb person you'll meet. I'm book smart, and a lot of stuff. I did see The Legend of Boggy Creek. I can't remember if I saw it before or after my encounter, but I'm glad you brought that up, because to this day, up until probably a few months ago, every day I'd think about this, not all day, but, a couple times a day. And I'd wonder if it even happened. Was this a false memory? Was this a nightmare? Was this something that maybe, and I actually thought that could I have watched Legend of Boggy Creek before this, or the show with Steve Austin and Bigfoot, but if that was the case, I never imagined it before or after. I never had a problem, being in the woods before that time or after that time until I remembered, and everything came flooding back. But yeah, I honestly couldn't tell you. I know when I saw it, it was on TV, and I was a kid, and it scared the hell out of me. God, if you're a kid, and even today, it's kind of eerie just because it has that 70s feel, that 70s kind of grainy, footage to it,
Right.
which is a little eerie. But yeah, as a kid, that scared me to death. And for the longest time, I thought, well, maybe that influenced it. But I've been in the woods.
That bathroom scene was the one that got me. After I saw it when I was young, and every time I would be like in the country at my cousins or whatever, I was closing, the curtains.
Was there a bathroom scene in that? If there was, I honestly don't remember. It's been a long time.
Oh, when the one stuck his hand through the window,
arm in the window, man.
Oh,
that scared me
to death.
Pardon me for 1 second, gentlemen.
Oh, look. And I wouldn't. I mean, I'd close. I'd put a shirt up over the window if I was at my cousin's and they didn't have.
Look who decided to join.
All right, welcome, Texas Jack.
And my son actually passed me a note because he was with me. When I was getting shot down, the few times I mistakenly opened up to people about what happened to get shot down.
Don't say mistakenly. Don't say
yeah, sorry, bad choice of words. Bad choice of words. Well, I was mistakenly trusting people I shouldn't have.
Fair enough.
Sorry, that's what I meant. But I would tell them, this is a subject. I read about it, listen to it. It's amazing how many people, something like that happened. And I had a woman and her son told me a story. They were in Idaho, and they saw one, and they're in a house by itself, and they saw a huge form rising. It had the top of the head, that conical head, and they immediately gathered all the puppies, went in the house, and they noticed all the horses that were by the house because that's where the family was with the dog and the puppies. The puppies started acting weird. The horses ran across the other end of the field immediately, and the mom just told her son, "Get the puppies inside right now." And a few days later, miles away, they're out in the country. Miles away, there's a neighbor that had a chicken farm. He raised chickens for a living. And he had said one night he woke up the next morning and hundreds of chicken were dead. Not a bite taken out, no fang marks. It's like someone strung their necks. And it's just amazing.
Wow.
If you talk about just being interested in the subject and you're kind of respectful and you take it seriously and you're not joking, how many people will come forward saying, "Hey, this happened to me," and they really have no idea. They don't even know about Bigfoot really, or they don't think it's possible, and they tell you all these things, and you're like, I don't know what else it could be. It's really weird how that works out sometimes.
Yeah, no doubt.
It is.
Here's a question. We're going to take some questions from the chat here in just a few minutes, by the way. Is there any proof they will attack? Just curious. Anecdotal is the only real, I guess, proof. They have, according to story, killed people. So, I mean, I would look at it like any other wild animal. You put them in a situation where they have to defend themselves, and that's exactly what they're going to do. A black bear will run away from you, but corner him and see what happens.
Right.
What do you think about the Ape Canyon attack? Because when I mentioned Mark Marcel,
they shot at him.
He did a lot of research on him, but I think that proves they're vicious. And he did so much documentation research that it did indeed take place. After listening to him, I'm like, man, that's kind of it happened. That's fact, at least in my opinion.
This is my take on the whole thing. I hear a lot of stories, a lot from people from East Texas all the way up that corridor, Southeast Oklahoma, Mississippi, Louisiana, the South, essentially. I think people shoot at these things. I think that's why they're so aggressive, and they seem to be more aggressive here. Not that they aren't aggressive in the North, Pennsylvania. We've heard those stories up there, bad stuff. Pacific Northwest, and maybe it's something different. Maybe it's a different type. Who knows? We can't study them enough to know whether that's the case, as much as we hear it from people. It doesn't take much critical thinking to understand that no one is studying these things. No one is not seeing that evidence from anybody. What we're catching most of is their the evidence of their presence or hearing a sound, or they're just not giving us very much. But I think that's the deal: is people shoot at them or shoot them.
Big mistake.
Look, whether they die or not, it's bound to hurt. You know, imagine a 9mm, even if you were, you know, the size of
pickup truck,
you know, a Brahma bull or whatever, it's still going to hurt. And
That's
probably
irritate them for sure.
really, really aggravates you. So I think that's, I'm not saying, you know, it's the culture. Good old boys shoot. They just shoot.
I'm in Georgia. I can attest to that because I'm in a rural area and I hear gunshots all the time, and it is not deer season year round. So yeah, there's a lot of shooting.
Onset of hogs, everybody's got an AR in their truck.
Yeah,
pretty much, or in the house somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why I like Carrie. There's a few other people, but it's like you show the evidence. To me, it's proof, and you say form your own decision. You're not insisting this is what it is, but, you know, because there's so many experts out there, and to me, there's enough proof out there now. And this is only my opinion, which may be worth a nickel at most, but it's beyond. We're beyond the point where, you know, proof needs to be provided. You know, a good eyewitness will send a man to prison or death. But in this case, when you have physical evidence, you have video, you have pictures. I mean, I saw some pictures that were slam dunks. I showed them to my friends yesterday, and it actually made them pause and think. It's like, that is interesting. But it's beyond the point of where, well, I guess only for me, I can only speak for myself. Proof isn't required. Well, I've seen one, but I guess to other people, it amazes me that proof is still needed, and I don't know if any proof is going to be enough. You know,
proof of these creatures lies in the court of public opinion. You know, we'll say that. Yeah. We'll say that all the time. But what we need more of is hearing, especially when it comes to the seemingly weird paranormal side to Sasquatch. You know, we've said this before. I've said this before, that when you find something strange, weird, you know, and I'm not talking about seeing a Sasquatch running through the woods that you can't get a beat on with your phone, like tracks. We mentioned this, tracks disappearing in the middle of a field. That's meaningful. Okay, that means something. If you're trying to, especially if you're trying to sell that Sasquatch just disappears or goes into portals or can jump 400 feet, you know, that's something you can document and show us. And it's my contention that we are morally obligated to pursue the things we find meaningful and show everyone else. Get this stuff on. Don't just tell me this is what happened. Show me where it is. I hear these things all the time. No one ever shows it to me. This is what I want. Someone please show me these things. Send them to me. Send me the links. I will. I'm the biggest backpedaler there is. I will back right over myself, apologizing for not seeing it yet. But in 14 years of looking into it, I haven't seen anything that's going to convince me otherwise. But the things that we talk about in this subject, you know, what we've experienced is different than saying what someone else told you and you couldn't show. It's different when it's you and you're on here. You are, you know, you say you don't care what people think. You have to care some. There's no courage in not caring what people think. You know, it takes courage to come on here, show your face, give your name, and tell something essentially that is hard to believe.
It's almost like you're committing yourself when you do that as well, though.
Yeah.
You're committing yourself to what you saw or the experience. And I know it was extremely helpful for me when I came on with Carrie as a guest my first time. And I was nervous, but yet at the same time, I'm like, okay, I'm all in now. It's out there, what I saw, or, you know, my story is out there. So I'm all in, and it kind of was like, whew, it was a big relief to get it off my chest.
It is.
Very cathartic.
Even if you don't think it's going to be, it always, every time I hear it, it always ends up being a cathartic situation. Now, I know you've got a lot more to talk about, and I really want to get you back on here to do it, but I want to take some questions from the chat. We've seen quite a few here.
Yeah, by all means.
Make sure you put your questions in caps for me, please. So I can pick them out a little bit better. Let's see. Here's something in caps. Let's see. Squidgy mess. Anyone think that it's all connected, these beings too? Not exactly sure what you mean there. I mean, I believe everything on this planet is connected in some way, form, or fashion. You hear this 6 degrees of separation. For the most part, you can do that. You can work that out with anybody on the planet. So, yeah, to be a little bit more specific for me there. Squishy mess. I guess that's what that said. Squidgy mess.
Squidgy.
Yes. All right. Questions. All
Let's
right.
hear the backstory to that name.
Yeah. Oh, here's good advice from Mr. Lighthouse. Smash the like button. And you know what? There's a comment section down there. Let us know what you think. We are not. I think Brad and I probably get ridiculed as much as anyone that comes on this show.
But we read them.
We do read them. So yeah, leave a comment. I tell you what, we might start giving away some prizes on comments, like money and shirts, and I think we may work something out, because we can tell if you're subscribed or not. We can't tell if you've hit the like button, but we trust your integrity. So,
and Carrie and I we always hit the unlike button.
Here is DH. So, do you think they can understand human speech? Okay.
Wow.
I've heard this. Okay. This is just what I think. There's no reason for them to be able to understand human speech unless someone taught them English or whatever language there happens to be spoken around them. What I do think they understand are our notions and our tendencies. I say this all the time. I can tell when someone's mad at me, she ain't got to say a word. And that's usually the indicator.
The look.
Yeah,
The look.
You can just tell.
The eyes.
You can just tell someone, a typical human tendency. I could tell when David Politis at that conference, I could tell he just did not want to be there. Really somber looking fella. Again, say some prayers for that guy. Scott Carpenter, same way. He was really excited. We went out for dinner, Scott and I and my family, and he was very appreciative of that too. So Scott, good dude, good as gold, going through a lot of stuff,
like we all do.
Yeah, absolutely. Just saying, it's just hitting him right now.
Well, no, and that's what I'm saying. It's we all go through it, and it's always appreciated when somebody has your back, at least even in thought. That's a a reason to pray for somebody's to become at peace.
Yeah.
So.
And do you mind if I ask you a question, Carrie?
No, not at all.
Have other people you've talked to, have you had situations before where they'll say, and then I forgot about it for years or decades? Yeah. Have you heard that before? Is that almost a common thing?
Look, there were things that I had completely forgotten until I did emotional freedom techniques with Barb Charlton, and she makes you get into it. She makes you just like you're there, right? I don't know what in the world is going on with my computer. Okay, here it is. And something that I completely spaced out and didn't really tell in the whole exchange that I had with this being was when I stood up and I had a mesh net over my face and I had a Recondo hat. My eyes, you could just see my eyes. When I stood up, I pulled this thing down over my face. Now I didn't remember that until she put me back there. So there are triggers that you can be listening to here, and it can take you back to you were 8 years old, just like something peeking in the window. Who in the world isn't afraid of that when you're a kid? And then to actually see it, kidding me?
Oh, Legend of Boggy Creek.
Yeah, I hear it all the time.
And honestly, I remember watching The Legend of Boggy Creek and how scary it was, but I remember the arm coming through the window, but I don't remember the head peeking in anything. I don't remember that part. I remember the attack, but that was it.
Yeah, the arm through the window, just as I said earlier, just terrified me. I mean, I still remember it. I still, in the woods, will look at a bathroom window.
Let's see what time let's take one more. This thing skips forward, so if I miss somebody's question, I apologize. I just go with the next one I see here. Boss Man asks, what are thoughts on why Bigfoot remains so elusive? Well, I got a lot of thoughts on that. We'll go with you, Mike. What do you think?
Man, I think they just don't. I think they've been around humans enough to where they just don't trust human beings. I think they know what we're capable of. I'm sure they don't know how a gun operates, but I'm sure they know what happens when a human has a boomstick, points it at a deer, and it drops. I think it's a healthy dose of respect and maybe even a little bit of fear to stay away from human beings.
How many people do you trust, Brad?
I mean,
Yeah, exactly. Hardly any.
Yeah, and we are people. You just don't do it.
And their curiosity. They're so curious.
Curiosity, yeah.
They're always where you don't think that they should be or would be, it seems like. They get seen in spots that are illogical. Well, I wouldn't have thought I would have seen one there.
Well, you have to think for a creature like this.
Right.
An apex predator, maybe they're hunter-gatherers, who knows? But that is apparently predisposed to hiding. I mean, that's survival. Survival 101, keeping out of sight, hidden. Not just something that they're taught. I think they would mess up a lot more if they were taught these things, but born in them.
Ingrained. To
just hide. Even in the dark, these creatures are hiding. So I think that's part of not being discovered. You know, it's almost Christopher Noel has the whole the savant, autism thing. It's almost exactly the same thing, just non-social. We'll sit and watch, but it's trust. Like anything wild, wild animals don't trust people. They don't trust other wild animals. You know, this is something, not that you can't befriend a bear, but that takes time and energy and years, and catch them when they're young. Usually, you can tame anything, but I don't think these beings want to be. I think they're too self-aware. When you're beings that are self-aware and then predisposed to not being discovered, I think it's probably upsetting to them when they are found out.
That's a good point, because I think self-aware is one of the reasons they're not captured more, seen more.
Self-aware means
self-aware goes
will.
A long ways. That's one. Yeah,
that means free will. Yeah. That means they can decide to do whatever they want. Now, take most animals, say a wild white-tailed deer, very easily patterned, slave to their stomach, still hard to find, because they're more proficient in their environment than we are. We stumble around through the woods. We're just not really.
You're loud.
Yeah, we're just not anymore anyway.
Yeah.
But you can bait them in, put out food, they're going to come to it. I think a Sasquatch can decide whether they want, you're not going to just bait one in. That's why I never understood these scent traps. They're probably sitting there watching you put it out first. Maybe they do work. I got a picture of one. A lot of people have seen this guy leaning out from behind a tree, and you can see everything. This guy was following a man and his wife for 2 miles. He got 6 pictures of it. The best one from a 60-yard shot, and this thing looks 10 feet tall. And he said it was 10 feet tall, leaning out, and his wife was menstruating. There you go. Maybe that's the key right there. So I'm not saying these scent things don't work. I think maybe they do, but I don't know. Some of these techniques I think are a waste of time.
And I'm certainly not even a researcher, so I really don't have a right to voice, but I tend to agree with you.
I'm not a researcher. I'm going to voice.
I think a lot of times they're probably staring at human beings, laughing at them, pointing, going, look at these guys. Look what they're trying to do.
Look how close I got to this guy. He didn't even see me.
And that's what's scary. I'm so sorry. You listen to so many reports, and at one time I thought, Well, if you're going to find these things, they're going to be easy to spot. Just look 6 or 7 feet in the air and we'll know they're behind the tree. They're 3 feet just above the ground, peering at you from underbrush or growth, or they're up in a tree. It's like, man, there's no safe spot. You know, there's no telling where these things could be. That's scary to me. Just at one time I thought, well, you know, I didn't think about them doing more than hiding behind a tree, but getting so low to the ground or being up in a tree, God, my neck could be on a swivel 24/7.
Well, look. If you've grown up being a hunter, when you walk in the woods, depending on, obviously, if you're squirrel hunting, you're looking up or whatever. But typically, you're looking to a certain, you're only looking so high, and you're looking low to the ground. You're just looking in a certain, what's the word I'm trying to use? Oh crud! I can't even think. You're looking just in a certain zone for whether if you're going to see a hog or a deer or snakes, you might be looking on the ground, but you're not looking up tall, or you're not constantly or consistently looking on the ground.
Yeah, if you're squirrel hunting, you're looking up until you run into a snake.
Exactly.
Then you're snake hunting after that.
Yeah,
every single time.
Or if you're turkey hunting, sitting on the ground. Yeah,
run into a spider web. You're spider web hunting after that. So, but hey, look, it's been a great show, Michael. We definitely want to get you back. I know you got some more things to talk about. I'm going to be packing the truck and heading home. I haven't been home. I'm home now. Heading to my other home, West Texas. So it's a 14-hour drive. If anybody's up, feels like hollering, give me a shout. I'll be driving. Brad, great show as always. Mike, thanks again for showing up.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you.
The Sunday encounters, I think it's 5:00 p.m. Central with Daniela. I might be here for that one. I'm not sure. I think we got Kevin Saunders on. I'm not sure who's coming up. I've got a whole list of people. But if you want to come on the show, you can email me at bigfootodyssey@gmail.com. You can go to our website, bigfootodyssey.us. You will find a phone number. Bottom left corner of the first page. You can call me right there. If you've got a long story, a long email to write, I prefer you call, just because it's going to take me a while to get to your email. I'm already so far behind, and I apologize for that. If I haven't gotten back to you and you've emailed, I'll get to them. I promise you I will. Always do. So great show tonight, guys. Thanks everybody for showing up here. We'll see you guys Sunday, 5:00 p.m. Central. Sunday Encounters. Y'all have a good one.
Y'all take care. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Take care.